What's really good, dude? We gonna watch Drown in the Network Tunnel, Mossdale Cave Tragedy. Oh my god, why y'all keep going to them caves, bro? Like, ain't nothing, bro. Ain't nothing sweet about them caves, bro. Like, you just want to be in the cave for what? Like, we gonna watch it though.
When 6 men entered a tight cave system to help out with some important mapping work, they thought they would be in for an adventurous day in the deep tunnels of Mossdale Caves. The harsh reality of what they would face is absolutely stunning.
Man, look at that, bro. I'm not doing it like this.
Is the fatal breakdown of the Mossdale caving tragedy. In June of 1967, 10 explorers entered the Mossdale cave system to explore and help clear some of the deeper passages for further mapping. These passages were not well documented by caving standards, but the 2 leaders of the group felt confident in their ability to navigate the group carefully. 26-year-old leader Dave Adamson and his friend Jeff Boireau had explored Mossdale many times before. This cave system was not much of a touring cave. There were very few areas where a person could fully stand. It was mostly grueling crawls or squeezing through wet spaces filled with rocks and mud. That's why after a few hours, 4 of the group members, 2 men and 2 women, turned back as planned. Dave Adamson's fiancée was one of these casual cavers. Morag Forbes was thrilled to be getting married to Dave in less than a month. These adventurers, who only planned a light day of exploring, exited the cave around 5 o'clock. The skies were overcast, but nothing clearly threatening. Dave and Jeff continued deep underground with their 4 caving friends.
I don't understand that. Why did I go? Yeah, come on, man.
Colin Vickers, John Ogden, and Bill Frakes were top cavers. At just 17 years old, Michael Ryan was the youngest member. At this point in the day, the men were starting their crawl through the Far Marathon Passage. This claustrophobic tunnel is the length of 3 football fields, over 900 feet of narrow rock with a light stream of water along the bottom. Far Marathon Passage must be maneuvered in a single direction because it's only 18 inches by 12 inches, barely enough room for an average-sized person to pull themselves along. Imagine crawling in a space not much bigger than your computer screen. I'm saying though,
they go with a crawl in them tight spaces. Like, come on now. They don't crawl in them tight spaces for what?
Pinned forward without room to spread your arms or reach back to your waist or legs. Turning around is not an option. Once you squeeze in, you are committed for at least an hour. Near Marathon and Far Marathon are each 900 feet long crawls. There is a small 5-foot area between the 2 where a caver can partially stand before starting the next section. As the men reach the last section of Far Marathon, there is a further narrowing and a tight squeeze to push yourself through. The goal was to reach this next section of the caving system to clear out passages for further mapping. Around this time, Morag had come back to the entrance to see if the men were done yet, but she didn't see any signs that the cavers were coming out. The rain had started to fall, though nothing too alarming. Underground, they were preparing to clear passages, but noticed the streams had increased and groundwater levels rising just slightly. It would certainly have caught their attention.
Man, you better turn back.
May not have registered as a true threat.
Man, what? See? Alright, I'm about to turn back. I'm all y'all. I know we been through this before, but we gotta turn back before it get worse. You know what I'm saying? Cause the water risen. The water wasn't like that before. So that mean he going down outside. Yeah, come on. Right up the cave. Man, y'all, the best thing to do in this situation, don't go caving. What's the point of going caving? I really don't see the point. Don't go caving. Like, come on, like, let's be real.
To their mission. At some point, the water levels became disturbing. The men would have heard the increasing volume of flow, as well as felt the rising water at their feet. Knowing they were 3 hours from the entrance, the decision was made to end.
Even if they did, hey, come on, we turning back. It's not too late now, cause they in 3 hours deep. They 3 hours deep in, so yeah, man.
Their work for the day. Dave knew this cave system better than anyone, so they were sure he would know when to lead them out safely. Unfortunately, they had no idea just how much water was coming their way. Morag had returned to the cave entrance a final time at 9 o'clock. She was utterly horrified to see a lake of water collected around the entrance to the cave system.
Oh yeah.
It was fully submerged, and completely inaccessible.
Oh,
Her
Lord.
fear and desperation fueled a frantic 3-mile run to get help. The men were moving back up the far marathon passage. Though the water level had risen, they had
to get help. Yeah, what the hell we gonna do with it? What the fuck we gonna do? It's nothing we can do. You know what I'm saying? Okay, they don't got no what you call it? The you know what sea divers use, and that's the cage though. You can't have it on your back anyway, cause they squeeze into tight spaces though. It ain't got no scuba gear on, none of that. Like, it's nothing we can do. We gotta wait till the flood is gone. Like, what?
no choice but to get back to a higher chamber as quickly as possible. This extreme distance in such a confining chamber was likely panic-inducing with such a heavy stream of water coming at them. All their experience told them to move calmly but efficiently to get through this intimidating reality. Sure, they would emerge on the other side in a higher chamber. Young Michael and experienced Jeff were the first two to squeeze through the tight starting section of the return. A body could barely fit through portions of this passage. The cavers had to literally squeeze themselves past the rock and pull themselves forward with just their arm strength. Their rubber boots would be towing along the sides to help leverage forward as fast as possible. This time, the water would be coming right at their faces instead of following behind. Jeff Boireau was familiar with the ebb and flow of water in Mossdale. Surely he knew that a swift effort in Far Marathon would get he and Michael safely beyond the risky passage and into the larger chamber above. The other four men would have been gathering their gear and preparing for their own entrance into Far Marathon. Now the water flow was becoming more alarming. Dave Adamson was confident that he knew where to wait out the flash flood from the storm. These experienced cavers began their push, with all haste in mind. Jeff and Michael began struggling with the flood of water they were facing in the tight passage. It rose above their hands and then their shoulders. They tried to find the
they
highest
down out
crack
here in
in the
these
passage
streets
to lift their faces as the water rushed into the tunnel. Michael would have asked Jeff what to do, where to go. The amount of water flowing into the narrow passage was only increasing with no safe place to escape. The haunting truth was that there was nothing that they could do. Dave had led the others into this same cramped tunnel, hoping to beat the increasing water flow. As they moved through Far Marathon, they encountered the same devastating reality that their friends had just faced. The water was too high. They turned to elevate their faces above the rising water, seeking the smallest pockets of air, but clearly there was just no escape from this trap. John Ogden was likely the last in the tunnel and heard the desperate cries of his friends to turn back. Realizing that there was no way forward, he pushed with his hands to slide his body backwards using his feet to lift his body weight. It was only a matter of moments to make a move before he would be fully submerged in water as well. He found a small crack overhead, where he wedged his head and body to gasp for the last moment of air. Maybe the water would stop rising and he would find protection in this small space of air. It was too tight for a person to actually fit, but in the frantic fight for survival, he jammed his body and face up into the narrow slit. Outside the cave, a full rescue effort was beginning. It was clear that the entrance to the cave was completely blocked by a lake of water, but there was still hope that the men had found a safe chamber to wait in until the water levels fell. The rescuers came out in full force. Hundreds of volunteers helped dam off the entrance and install pumps to try to move the water out of the mouth of the cave. This would allow the water levels inside to fall, clearing passages for safe movement.
Oh, well, okay, well, something they could do then.
The men entered the cave. Rescuers were able to make it down to Far Marathon. They shouted a few times, hoping to alert the men that the passage was now clear and they could come down from their high waiting chamber. It wasn't until 2 sets of legs were seen protruding from the ridge of the tunnel that the grim reality was revealed. These 2 bodies were Jeff and Michael, who had lifted their upper bodies into a ridge along the path to try to access the last breaths of air. The reality of the situation was completely devastating to rescuers who held to a slender thread of hope that these—
Oh, Lord. Dang. Don't go caving. Do not go caving.
These experienced cavers were able to find salvation in an air pocket. One by one, the bodies of 5 men were discovered. John Ogden's body would not be found for another 2 days. He had wedged himself so aggressively into the overhead crack, it took dozens of passes to locate his contorted remains. All 6 men drowned in an inescapable flash
they all
that filled
died.
the entire cavern with water. The cave was closed after this tragedy and remains the final resting place for the 6 men. In 1970, friends of the cavers entered the closed system to move the bodies to an upper chamber. It was renamed the Sanctuary.
Oh, Lord. That's crazy, bro. Do not go caving. I don't see a point of doing that, bro. What's the point? Like, for real, like, for the thrill, like, bro, man, you better download a video game and do a VR and then cave in the VR. I'm not doing that in the real life. Like, come on now. But RP to all of them. RP to all the sisters, the dudes, man. But yeah, though, that's crazy. Don't go caving, bro. Simple. I'm out.